Hey everybody, I'm Alex Big Blue, and this is my top 10 Superman villains. So I'll be telling you guys my top 10 favorite Superman villains from 10 to 1. Let's get it started. At number 10, Brainiac. So Brainiac is a villain who is very dangerous through his intelligence and all of the power and danger that creates. His ship, his weapons, all of that coming, from his just supreme intellect really makes him unique. I also think his look has always been pretty cool. The old green skin thing is pretty interesting character design, in my opinion. And I just think he's definitely one of the few ones that, when it comes to smart villains, that I would think of first for supervillains in general. And I always really like him as a character. At number 9, Bizarro. Bizarro has a very unique look where he looks, of course, kind of like, to me, like Frankenstein mixed with Superman almost, which I've always found pretty appealing. It's very different. And I think, from his white skin to his black hair and all that stuff, with his super physical physique, but also looking like a monster, just very cool and a kind of interesting juxtaposed to Superman, I've always thought. And of course, he's super powerful like Superman in a lot of ways. And he's not the smartest guy. That's kind of cool too, whenever you have one that is capable in some ways, but certainly not a genius, kind of like some of the other ones a lot of times are, or at least somewhat intelligent. And I think that's kind of an interesting aspect to him as well. But he's just overall a very interesting and different character that I like quite a lot. At number 8, Doomsday. So first and foremost, Doomsday, the first thing that comes to mind is super powerful, super tough matchup for Superman, and in general is just a very strong and almost indestructible villain. And I think his very crazy origin sets him apart from a lot of the other ones and villains in general, where of course, he was made to essentially die and then they'd remake him stronger every time. That origin is just really cool. That really does add a lot to him. Also, the character's look is very interesting. Just super creepy whenever they make him. He looks like, like a really crazy monster, essentially, which is what he is, I would say. And just, I think he makes a great matchup for Superman, especially, and mostly for that matter, on the physical side. At number 7, the Atomic Skull. I think that character has one of the coolest looks of villains that I've learned about in recent times. And I saw him in one of those DC animated movies. I think it's called Superman versus the Elites or something like that. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen it, I'm sure. But I think this character just looks really cool. That's one of the main reasons that I was drawn to him to start with. And he's very powerful. And I just think he's a very kind of interesting kind of bully and or physical fight type of guy that's always kind of going to bring trouble. And I just find the character pretty interesting, and I enjoy what I've saw of him so far. At number 6, the Silver Banshee. So I think Silver Banshee has one of the coolest looks of Superman's villains in general. Certainly very different, very horror themed and inspired by, I should say. I really like Banshees in general, also in mythology. It's just a very cool ghost type of creature. And I just think her character not only pulls that off well with using that type of, gimmick essentially. I just think her character looks really cool, has cool powers, and it's just a really fun one that I like showing up whenever she does. At number 5, General Zod. So Zod, I think, is one of the best matchups overall, probably for Superman. Of course, being a Kryptonian itself, really always matches up very well, and it kind of makes for a great fight anytime he shows up. He's essentially basically like an evil Superman, more or less. But I've always found that very cool, and I also like him whenever he's in movies. Regardless of what you thought of each of the movies, I always like the portrayal of him in those. And besides that as well, in the comics, I just really like him a lot. I think he is a jerk clearly, but he's like he kind of has his own motivations, and you at least get why he's well, or you get why what he's saying, even if you don't agree with him at all. You know what I mean? That one really is. I feel like it's not just completely pointless. He has his own crazy reasons for being that way, kind of, even though it doesn't at all make it okay what he does. Clearly, but yeah, I find him just to be a very interesting villain in general and a great foe for Superman. At number 4, Darkseid. Darkseid is the ultimate big bad for Superman, I would say, is probably as well as the Justice League, maybe. I mean, depending on which one you'd have there, but he's just one of the all time best, like very threatening, very, fairly intelligent and super physically threatening. And across the board, just very powerful and kind of is almost unstoppable to some regard compared to a lot of other characters. So he's very good in any kind of story that you generally put him in. Well, assuming he's the villain, I guess. But yeah, just I think he's one of the all-time classic Superman villains, and I've always really liked the character going up against the Man of Steel, and in general, I find Darkseid endlessly interesting. At number 3, Parasite. So Parasite, I think, has one of the coolest designs of Superman's villains in general. I've always really liked that purple skin look. And I think whether it be the older versions of him, the way, I mean, he looked in the older comics, or the way he's looked in some of the newer ones, I've really always dug his designs. I think any of them is really cool. And I think his powers are super threatening and makes him a very dangerous opponent for anybody, including Superman. And I think he's always been a pretty great Superman villain for all of those reasons. And it's certainly one of the ones that I've always liked and grown to like even more, if anything, in recent times. At number 2, Mongol. So Mongol, besides the fact that his self is very, very physically strong, very tough and taking beaten, of course, and just a very kind of smart and almost like a calculated, sadistic type of guy. But he has kind of his own vague rules that he occasionally follows too, or at least like kind of vague code, I would say. And I just find him very interesting and very great as a bad guy for Superman and in general, for that matter. The whole battle world that he's in always makes for a very threatening thing to pop out of nowhere when he does that as well. And the character's look is very cool. And ever since I've really come to start finding out about this character in recent times, I really like this character a lot. He's one of my favorites for sure. And at number 1, Metallo. Metallo has always been one of my favorites, if not always been my favorite for that matter. I think his look is very interesting, being a robot, but the fact that he can actually shoot out a blast out of his chest of kryptonite, I think automatically makes him a great Superman villain. And it also is visually very cool with the green blast shooting out. And the character's look and design, regardless of what, especially the famous newer one of, the one I'm talking about, the one I'll be showing the pictures of here, I've always liked a lot. And in general, whichever one it was always a really cool matchup for Superman as well. But yeah, his look, his power, and also just kind of, I don't know, he just gives off this kind of cool factor to me for a villain that I've always really appreciated. And I just really like the character a lot, and I always have. I am Alex Big Blue, and this has been my top 10 Superman villains. Thanks for watching.